everybody? Welcome to Capital Combat. The name says it all. I'm Hakeem Branch.
Rob Jarrell.
And today we're going to recap this past Saturday's CBS boxing broadcast in which we had a welterweight title unification between Danny Garcia and Keith Thurman. We're also going to touch on Erickson Luba versus Jorge Cota. And you saw Dawson versus Fonfara. That was not televised. I thought it would be. And I only recently found it on YouTube, so I haven't had a chance to watch it. And unfortunately, my daughter was sick all last weekend. I spent like half the day at the hospital. So I'm a little behind on a few things, but bear with me. Everything's good. She's better. Running around like nothing happened. So we're going to start off with Lubin because he opened up the broadcast. And like we said in the preview video, he had a tough guy in Jorge Cota, but we were expecting a showcase fight. Take it away, Rob.
Yeah, in Jorge Cota, he only had one loss. It was to Marco Antonio Rubio. So we knew that he could fight. I don't think it was by knockout. He was as tall, if not taller, than Lubin, and really, he just a tough quality opponent. The problem was he hadn't fought since 2015, so it was well over a year, which means he's been rusty. They say he's been in the gym. He's had ample time to prepare for this fight, and it looked like it. He wasn't getting overwhelmed, but you could just see the speed, the skill, and how fresh Lubin was in his fight with Cota, and fighting from that southpaw stance. Cota was starting to get a little bit more and more aggressive. He didn't try to rush his attack. He was very measured, and he shows a lot of poise for a guy that's only 21.
Yeah, and he has a lot of fights to be 21, because
Right.
didn't he have like almost 30 fights?
No, I don't think he has that many fights.
I mean, I think he's like 27-1 or something like that.
I have who? Cota?
Yeah.
Oh, Cota's 27-1. I'm talking about Lubin.
Lubin. Okay, I'm sorry.
Lubin has a lot of poise.
Oh yeah, definitely.
For someone that's 21, Cota's more like 28, 29.
Okay, because I was like, man, he's that young?
No,
Yeah,
Lubin.
Okay.
Lubin is only 21, and you could tell in how he talks, how he conducts himself in interviews, and what he does in the ring. Except for the knockout, because he did something where he just like, I would go into this power squat that I would hit you with this straight left hand. He went into a power squat and he hit him with his left hand, and that was a wrap.
Yeah. So going into it a little bit deeper, this was a footwork battle. Both guys, like Rob said, Lubin was a southpaw the entire time. He's trained as a southpaw who can switch to the orthodox style. Cota fights in the orthodox style but can switch southpaw,
Which, if I'm not mistaken,
which he did very early in the fight. And what he did was he would vary his stance up a lot. Like he went into that almost point fighting karate stance where he's like very wide and he kind of leaned back a bit, trying to catch Lubin coming in. And it worked a little bit, but nothing really effective. But then he would switch up, bring his feet in closer, and try and move around and give him different looks and angles. And he also changed levels as well. So it was very worthwhile for Lubin to see that. It almost looked reminiscent of, if you watch UFC 209, Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, who has that exact same stance, except he can kick. So when you can kick out of that stance, it's a lot more effective than when you can only punch, because it's not as stationary unless you're hopping back rather than stepping. You can't really step and move out of the way as quickly as you could. He just hopped back and forth like that. So Lubin also was changing his feet as he went on. He would get into a wide stance and kind of dip and change levels to once Cota changed his footwork to come forward, and then they would switch when Cota closed up his stance and started moving around. Lubin opened up his and let him come in to open up for counter opportunities. Now for the knockout, this is one of those things where they teach you certain things in the gym and they're not always necessarily true. And then at the same time it is. Because they always teach you against a southpaw fighter to get your lead foot on the outside of their lead foot. And you move in that direction to stay away from their power hand. And like Rob said, Lubin went into a power squat, but his foot was on the inside of Cota's lead foot. But what he does is he dips over into that power hand direction, but puts his foot on the outside of Cota and brings an overhand as he switches directions, and it was lights out. It was a perfectly beautiful setup that is not conventional and is probably something that he learned as he grew, and is not something that you learn on the first day in the gym. That's why I was impressed with it. That was it for that. Do you want to tell them about how the Dawson Fanfaro fight went, or you want to
just real quick? This was kind of a make or break fight for both guys. We know Fanfaro got knocked out by Joe Smith Jr. Yeah, Joe Smith Jr. And he switched trainers. He's under Virgil Hunter now. And he went against a guy in Dawson who, to everyone, is very talented. But his thing was always losing focus or just not being truly committed to the fight. And it looks like he was in there, but could he go the full, was it 10 or 12? It was a 12-round fight, if I'm not mistaken.
Honestly, I don't even remember. I'm going to be honest with you.
And he was winning.
It was a busy weekend for me.
He was outboxing Fanfaro. The problem is Fanfaro can always be outboxed by a superior boxer.
Yes.
Adonis Stevenson put hands on him, and then what happened, I think he was either knocked down or he was very shook at the end of that fight.
He did drop Stevenson.
Yes. So I couldn't remember, but I just know that happened. Same with Cleverly. He was in there versus Cleverly. Cleverly can box, but he was drawn into a firefight with the, and they're both guys that don't really have that amount of power. But again, who could take whose shots better? Drew him into that. He was outboxing and actually outworking Joe Smith Jr. before Joe Smith hit him and knocked him clean. That was just a perfect shot.
Yeah, I mean, that was like the first round, so you can't take too much from that.
True. But he's just a guy that can be outboxed.
Yes.
Which Dawson was doing. He used his footwork. He used his jab. He didn't even really stay on the ropes that much. When he got pushed back, he either tied up, slid out. But with Fanfaro, he keeps coming. He has a great chin, even though he, again, was knocked out and knocked down in certain fights. He would always come coming. Plus, he's a big guy. He was tall. He's like 6'2". Dawson was 6'1", and it just got to him. That kind of pressure, physically and mentally, it just wore Dawson down. And at this point, I just don't know where he goes because it's a very deep 175-pound division. Even the guys with 1 or 2 losses are still tough outs. And not even tough outs. They'll be fighting. I'm just excited to see these fights. It's plenty of fights to go around, period.
Yeah, so, I mean, if he gets that heart and mind focus and concentration together, he can still be a player. I don't think he'll, be a titleist, but he can test out some of those guys that are on the come up or beat off some of those other contenders to at least get a sniffing distance of it. So it's
Almost.
really...
Go.
I don't even know what
go.
I said. Anyway, I just called.
Just keep going.
Our
Just
bad.
keep going.
So that's up to him to decide what he wants to do. So let's go into the main event where we had 2 undefeated, hungry welterweights and a unification for the WBC and the WBA. What is it, super? Regular?
Super.
Super?
Because Peterson has the regular, and then there's an interim that's just... I don't want to get into the WBA picture.
Yeah, it's always confusing. But anyway, Keith Thurman, Danny Garcia, and in our preview video, we talked about this being a very tight contest with both guys being highly skilled. Thurman had the hand and foot speed advantages, possibly the power. Garcia being a tighter puncher. I'll go into that later on. But we saw that we thought that maybe Garcia could get the advantage of certain exchanges as the fight went on. But that was not to be the case. Thurman, to my surprising sentiments, was able to be focused the entire fight. And he never went into those wide circles of non-activity until the late fight, like the 11th and 12th round. So that was highly impressive to me. So he was able to stay tight with Danny Garcia and beat him to the punch. He also was tighter with his punches in certain exchanges. Sometimes Danny did get him a few times. But for the most part, Thurman was beating him to the punch. He was punching tighter. He was focused the entire time. And that's what led to the victory for him. What you got?
Yeah, this is one of those times where, as Danny Garcia, because Keith Thurman, I thought he would carry his power over exchanges. So if they got into a firefight, he would be able to throw tighter, faster, and harder over 3 and 4 punches, while Danny is more so 1 or 2, where he could catch you on timing. With Thurman, he was always aware of that. Sure, he did get caught. Both of them got caught, and Danny was actually buzzed early, and I think he was a little gun shy at that point. But with the movement of Thurman, Danny really couldn't stay on him. And this is where I think the game plan was just only halfway there. He did jab to the body. He went to the body very well. Actually, both guys did.
Yeah.
The problem was, with the mover like Thurman, you got to cut off the ring. You got to keep him in your line of sight. And too often, he was caught following Thurman instead of trapping Thurman.
Yeah, and that's something we talked about in the preview video. Like I was saying, instead of chasing him when he starts moving, if he was to sit there and wait for Thurman to come to him, Thurman has to come to him to punch. And unfortunately, he did not do that. So like you said, he was left following him a lot. And that's not Danny's game. So he's not adept to cutting off the ring. It's something that he probably should have worked on if they were having that game plan to stalk Thurman, knowing how he fights.
Right.
But for me, I was more impressed with what Thurman did over what Danny didn't do. And that was the story of the fight for me. I was very impressed with Thurman. Like I said, he was focused for the majority of the fight. He was able to take all of Danny's punches. He took some hard body shots. He took a few good counter shots. But most of the showy, flashy stuff was from him. I think he hurt him in the first and the third round. Right. We thought in the preview video that both guys would be hurt, but Garcia was never able to hurt Thurman. So I don't know if he didn't catch him clean enough or he's worked on some things. And one of the things that he did do that was very impressive also was he was able to get in and out quickly. Like if he just wanted to throw a single shot, he was throwing it as he ducked so the counter would miss. Or he would already be on a sidestep, so he just land the counter and there'd be no opportunity for Danny Garcia to counter him. So those are the things I was impressed with Keith Thurman. I said, hey, these are some new wrinkles in his game that he hasn't been able to show because he wasn't in there with someone as good as Danny Garcia. So we have to credit Danny Garcia and his team for making Thurman and his team step their game up to elevate and become a unified champ. It's not something that just happened overnight, because like we saw from the things that we saw in Keith Thurman before, we saw the fight going a different way. And because he saw those same things, him and his team, and said, hey, we need to work on this, he improved them, he got better, and he was able to get a official split decision.
Yeah.
I think I gave Danny 4 rounds in the fight.
No more than 4. I thought that, and I think I gave him 2 rounds early, and maybe 2 of the last 3 rounds, but that was just because Thurman was really, again, over-moving, felt like he had rounds already banked. and was just trying not to get caught by something Danny would throw, staying out of range, hitting him when he had to. It was hard to give those close rounds to Danny Garcia, but I guess that they did give him the benefit of the doubt. I said it was going to be a controversial split decision.
Yeah, I was thinking it was going to be something that people, like, I was picking Danny to win, but people were going to be upset with the decision. Now, Thurman won, and people are upset that, you know, it's a split decision. And like I was saying, like, Danny Garcia just does some things that are sexy to the judges. I don't know all of them, but some of the things are, some of those body shots he were landing were very hard. Yeah. He was able to punch with Thurman a lot, even though I was surprised that he was the one that was winging a lot. I think he was trying to go for the knockout too hard, and that's what led to him winding up a lot of those shots. And Thurman, I think they had that scouted. Like I said, once again, credit to those guys. They had down to a T, and they were able to execute that game plan. I also want to shout out Angel Garcia, because he was giving some great instructions in the corner to Danny. Both guys were. Dan Birmingham and Angel Garcia were giving great instructions. It was just that Keith was able to implement those instructions much better than Danny. And because of that, he was negating what Angel wanted Danny to do. And that's what we love about the elite level fighting. We're talking small increments of improvements, implementing your game plan over the other, staying focused for that entire duration of the fight, because 36 minutes is a long time to be in there with somebody trying to knock your head off. And to be able to concentrate and keep that up for 12 rounds is very impressive. I know people were upset about the lack of violence that happened in the fight, as you know, the crowd started booing at times. But you know, when you're in there with elite level guys, you can't do that. And then you don't get to the elite by doing that. So, you know, that's something that, you know, probably the hardcore fans were more like, you know, this is a good fight. But, you know, the people who aren't as versed in the subtle nuances were probably like, come on, bro. And I understand that. So it's not like I'm going to, like, berate them or take them to task over that, because your preferences are your preferences. But you also have to understand that these guys got to the elite level by avoiding that kind of stuff. And once you get to the elite level, a lot of that stuff doesn't happen. Like, knockouts at the elite level don't come as often as they do in the lower levels, because the skill levels are much higher and the stakes are as well. What you got?
All right. So the good thing is this did great numbers on network television.
Yes, it did.
Which I hope for everyone involved in promoting boxing and boxing on television says, hey, we could put this on Fox. We could put this on CBS, ABC, NBC, hell, ESPN. But we'll see. Looks like PBC is the only ones willing to do this. I don't care as long as it's on network television.
Yeah.
Another thing, where does Thurman go from here? Well, he always has the option of fighting the winner of Brooks Spence.
Yes.
Or he could fight, I want to say his mandatory, but the WBA regular champion, which would be Lamont Peterson.
Yeah. And I don't even know if that's his mandatory. His mandatory could be somebody else, knowing the WBA, because that just, I don't know.
Yeah.
So we'll have to wait and see how that plays out. And then we have to wait and see how Brooke and Spence play out, because we could have either a new champ or a defending champ.
Either way,
Brooke. Either way,
a good fight's going to happen.
It should be a good fight. So that's it for this video, guys. Hope you enjoyed it. Make sure you leave your thoughts on the fight below. Make sure you like this video. Share it with your other boxing friends. We are now on Twitter. We get our tweet on and all that good stuff. So if you're on Twitter, you can follow us on there. Name is the same on all social networks, CapitalofCombat. Links are going to be below. And we will see you guys in the next video, in which we'll talk about Golovkin Jacobs. So until then, fight on.
This is round won and you've already lost. They don't seem to see that everything we've done is coming and cost. My fists are on fire, I perform till I perspire. My demons are in a rage, keep thinking that it's a game. I kick crime, hurricane. I told them I don't play, I'm liquid.
Black Street Fighter.